David Abernathy, who went by Ralph, was a black leader during the Civil Rights Movement of the United States. He was born in Linden, Alabama on March 21, 1926. He was the son of a farmer and grandson of a slave. Rather than continuing to work on the family farm through his young adult years, he enlisted in the U.S. Army and served in World War II from 1941 to 1945. In 1948, he was ordained a minister of the First Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, before studying sociology and mathematics at the State University. His leadership abilities prospered while leading demonstrations at school, arguing the lack of heat and water for black students and the poor quality of lunch service. These positions eventually drove him into the Civil Rights Movement. In the early 1950s, Ralph met Martin Luther King Jr. King was a minister of a congregation called Dexter Avenue in Montgomery as well. Their passion heightened immensely on December 1, 1944, when Rosa Parks, a middle-aged African-American tailor's assistant, refused to give up her seat in the bus to a white man. Buses, like all other public places at this point in history, were segregated. Officials didn't care that Rosa had a difficult day at work. They arrested her. Rosa said, "When that white driver stepped back towards us, when he waved his hand and ordered us up out of our seats, I felt determination cover my body like a quilt on a winter night." She was also a co-worker of Abernathy at the NAACP. Ralph and Martin Luther King Jr. organized protests from 1955 to 1956, targeting bus segregation. They named the movement the Montgomery Bus Boycotts. Simply, black people would refuse to use the buses until all passengers were completely integrated, even through the forceful harassment and intimidation. 17,000 black people in the city walked to work or carpooled with the minuscule black population who owns cars. After all, 3/4 of the city's bus patrons were black. The loss of revenue and the decision by the Supreme Court forced the bus company of Montgomery to accept integration. The boycott ended on December 7, 1956, and as a result, segregation on buses had now been declared unconstitutional. The success earned them widespread recognition. White men reacted violently, like firebombing Abernathy's home and church. On the day before the boycott ended, December 19th, King and Abernathy, through their alliance of the Montgomery Improvement Association, agreed that integrated buses placed great responsibility on the black population to maintain and respect their new given freedom. They made a list of suggestions for acceptable behavior on buses to ensure nonviolence and dignity. Martin Luther King Jr. was Ralph's main influence. King had such passion that radiated to create a movement based on peace for all. His points were well constructed and explained so that everyone could understand. At 28 years old in 1957, King wrote an article titled "Nonviolence and Racial Justice." At this point in time, blacks who no longer thought of themselves as inferior, nor accepted injustice and exploitation. King gave two choices for action from here out, being violence both spoken and physical and hatred, or nonviolence resistance. Specifically, King believed that nonviolent resistance does not seek to defeat or humiliate the opponent, but to win his friendship and understanding. Interestingly, King also points out that expressing protest through non-cooperation or boycotts is meant to awaken a sense of moral shame in the opponent. The aftermath of nonviolence is the creation of a beloved community. King's words are powerful because of the heartfelt passion he poured into them. I feel the most powerful statement he made in the article is, "The nonviolent resistor is just as strongly opposed to evil. His mind and emotions are always active, constantly seeking to persuade the opponent that he is mistaken." Based on these motives, in 1957, Martin Luther King Jr., Ralph Abernathy, and other Southern black ministers formed the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which led to the Poor People's Campaign. King was the president and Abernathy was the secretary-treasurer. The main goal of the organization was to continue the civil rights activism that began with the Montgomery Bus Boycott, also to create a bill of economic and social rights that set poverty on the road to extinction. The SCLC issued the Statements for the Demands of the Rights of the Poor in 1968, which was distributed to many aspects of government, like the Department of Justice. Included in the demands were 5 requirements, the first one being a meaningful job at a living wage for every employable citizen. The demands were well executed and specific, marking a milestone for the civil rights movement and overall well-being in the United States. The SCLC rallied up and united several people. Abernathy's dedication to the civil rights movement to create equality among social classes and races remained and perhaps strengthened when Martin Luther King Jr., his best friend, inspiration, and associate, was shot during his "I Have a Dream" speech. Abernathy believed that they were together at all times, in spirit. He was the first one there when he was killed. Abernathy honored his death with his speech to the SCLC. He commenced his address with, "The greatest memorial that we can build to the life and work of Martin Luther King Jr. will not be through murder, brick or storm, or even through pious and secret services, as important as they are. but will be through the continuation of his humble and courageous efforts to break loose the shackles of injustice and the bonds of equality which have enslaved the black and poor people of this country for generations, yes, for even centuries. Abernathy, as the new president, made sure to reiterate King's motives by saying, "Thank God for him. Thank God that he lived in this generation. Our lives were touched and inspired by him, that our souls were moved by his meek, gentle, yet powerful spirit." Abernathy recognized the history King made. Ralph was there through it all. Years later, in 1985, Ralph Abernathy, now 59, reflects on his contribution to the civil rights movement and the opinions of fellow activists through interview. One of the things he shared was of the Emmett Till murder in the mid-50s. He said, "Yes, it had a great impact on me because I was greatly disturbed that another black man had been mistreated and murdered, and we were helpless, and we could not do anything about it. At this particular time, we had to live in fear and with fear because the state of Mississippi would not do anything about it, and we were just that hopeless." King and Abernathy created change throughout the South. They were jailed on 44 occasions, remembering to read their psalms during their stay. They were usually jailed together. Officers eventually caught on, so they had to develop sign language, because they weren't permitted to even greet one another. Their passionate minds fed each other. We shall all be grateful for their dedication in standing peace, the ultimate team. Although Abernathy's name is usually overshadowed by King's, Abernathy was a positive reinforcement.
We were so proud of the fact that no violence had taken place that day, and we were so pleased. But this beautiful scene of the wind dancing in the sands of the Lincoln Memorial, I will never forget.